have to wear boots, I guess.
Yeah. So my feet should be down. Is that what you're saying?
No, I was just laughing at your socks.
Oh, all
I
right.
thought they were I thought they were the socks that you bought me.
No, I'm not giving those to you.
She's like, I bought you socks, but I took them.
They were like $20 socks. They were smart wool socks. And I tried them on and I went, no, she's not getting these. So, do you want these lights turned off?
No, those are okay.
All right. We ready?
Didn't you have those lights on?
Yeah, but I looked at the
It
tape,
didn't look very
and it was
good.
like I'd have black shadow
Yeah.
under there, and it was weird, so I'm gonna like get, my phone's gonna like make noises. Is that big enough, you think?
Yes.
I'll make it bigger.
Don't do the flu though. Okay.
I know.
Okay. Is it going?
The fire? Or the, yeah.
Oh. Okay.
The fire?
You just blocked the fire. You should be on the side. There you go.
It's like dying. You can't even see it.
My stomach might growl.
Okay.
Sorry.
What's it? The Emperor of the Kite. Okay. Hello. I'm going to tell you a story about the Emperor and the Kite. Long ago in ancient China, there lived a princess named Zhao Zhou. And she was so tiny, and that's why her name was Zhao Zhou, because it means the smallest one. And she was so tiny that she was rarely ever thought of. In fact, if she was even thought of at all. Now, Zhao Zhou had 4 older brothers who were wiser and stronger than she. And in the eyes of the emperor, they were like the rising suns. And they helped the emperor rule the kingdom and teach the people the ways of peace. Now, Zhao Zhou also had 3 older sisters who were also bigger and stronger than she was. And they were like the midnight moons in the eyes of the emperor. And they brought food to the table. But since Zhao Zhou was rarely thought of, she wasn't allowed to bring food to the table, not even a grain of rice. Sometimes, in fact, the emperor forgot he had a 4th daughter at all. So she ate all by herself, and she talked to herself, and she played all by herself. Now Zhao Zhou's favorite toy was this beautiful kite made of paper and sticks. And every morning she would go and she would fly it up high into the sky and look at its beautiful wings, red and orange and green, glinting against the sun. And every evening when the sun was setting, she would go out and she would fly her kite high against the sunset. And it was so beautiful, like a prayer on the wind. And every day when she was out flying her kite, a monk would walk by, and he would recite a poem he wrote about her kite. And it was like this: "My kite sails upward, mounting upon the high heavens. My soul goes on wings." And every time he said this, she would thank him, but he just continued walking past. But not everything was peaceful in the kingdom. There were evil men out plotting against the emperor. And one day, when her siblings were all gone, these men crept up behind the emperor and they kidnapped him. But Zhao Zhou, as small as she was, she went unnoticed. But she saw what they did. And these men took the emperor to a wide, treeless plain where there was a single tall tower with a window high up above. And there was one iron bar going across the window. And they put the emperor up in that kingdom and locked him there so that he couldn't escape. And then they rode all the way back to the palace and told everyone that the king was dead. And when the princes and princesses heard that their father was killed, they fled to a neighboring kingdom, and there they stayed, sighing and weeping because they were so upset. And that's all they did. But Zhao Zhou, she knew that her father was alive. So she went back to the plain, and she built herself a little hut made of sticks and grass. In the morning, she would take her kite, and she would take a tiny basket and fill it full of food. She tied the basket at the end of her kite, and then she would walk across the plain to the tower, And she would fly her kite high up in the sky, so high that it would reach the window, and her father would get the food, and that's how she kept her father alive. For days they lived like this, her father in the tower and Zhao Zhou in her tiny hut. And the evil men continued to rule through the kingdom, and the people were very unhappy. One day, when Zhao Zhou was putting food in the basket for her father, the monk walked by, and he said the poem that he had written for her. My kite sails upward, mounting to the high heavens. My emperor goes on wings. And Zhao Zhou thought, what? Something's wrong, the words are different. And so she turned to face the monk and she said, stop, wait! But he didn't turn around, he kept walking, for monks don't care about the troubles of this world. But she thought after a while, and she understood what he meant, and she knew what she had to do. So she brought the food to her father and walked across the plain back to her hut, and she started twining together grass and sticks until she made a rope as thick as her waist and as tall as the tower. And she walked across the plain to the tower, and she tied the rope to the end of her kite, and she flew it high up in the sky. And she yelled out, Father, Father, look out the window! But her voice was as tiny as she, and it was lost on the wind. Finally, the emperor looked out the window and he saw the kite. And he saw the rope, and he knew what his daughter wanted him to do. So he untied the rope from the kite, and he watched the kite sail off into the heavens. And he took the rope and he tied it around the iron bar in the window. And he crept up to the edge of the windowsill, and he slid down the rope to the ground. And when he was at the ground, he knelt by his daughter's feet, and he kissed the ground where she stood. And he thanked her over and over again. Thank you, my tiny daughter, thank you. And he gave her a great big hug and put her on his shoulder and walked her all the way back to the palace. And when they got back to the kingdom, back to the palace, the people were so happy. They cheered and roared, for they were tired of the evil men, and they were tired of their rule. And so with the emperor's help, they overthrew the evil men and locked them in prison. And when the princes and princesses had heard that the emperor was back and alive, they were overjoyed, and they came back to the palace as soon as they could. But they were surprised to see Zhao Zhou sitting in her own tiny little throne right next to the emperor, because the emperor had kept his promise to Zhao Zhou. And so from that day on, she never wanted for anything, especially love. The end. You know, I made a mistake, but I'm going to forget it. I said he kept his promise to her, but I never actually said what the promise was.
And you said king a couple times.
Well, yeah,
Oh, well.
it's not going to matter. You think
Yeah.
children
Oh,
are...
well, children